Okay, we're back. So I just watched the video prior to getting this started. One, apologies to my mother. She runs a public speaking class. I realized that, if you had heard me say I probably said it 4 million times last video, so I'm going to be pretty conscious about that starting our upper body portion here today. So that being said, the first thing I do when I start is going to go ahead and be it's going to go ahead and be my foot rotations, okay? And I'm hoping my feet are in frame here. So I've got my shoe here, obviously not the shoe I'm wearing. I hope it's turning out on camera. The reason I've got my shoe here today is because if you can see the outline at the bottom of the shoe, right, it looks like your stereotypical shoe. What you're going to want to imagine when you're doing your foot rolls is you're going to want to imagine drawing the outline of your shoe on the floor, okay? And while I'm doing that, if you can kind of watch, I'm taking my foot and I've got most of my weight on my opposite leg, okay? But I've still got a decent amount of weight on this leg, and I'm trying to draw the outline of my shoe on the ground, okay? So you're going to go a few times clockwise, and then you're going to go a few times counterclockwise, and you're going to do that for both legs. If at any point in this video I don't swap legs or swap sides with you, just assume we're going to do the opposite side. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and start with foot rolls. So I'm going to go a few times this way. Feel free to follow along. And then we'll go ahead and go the other way a few times. We'll go ahead and swap sides. And really the point of this is to go ahead and warm up your ankles and then all those tendons and ligaments on the sides and up your legs. The reason I do this is pretty common in, I guess, my line of work and what I like to do fitness-wise to get lower leg stress injuries and or golly, I say that a lot, tendonitis, stuff like that, where my ligaments and tendons will get sore or strained just from all the lower leg work I'm doing. So after you do that, I'll grab my shoe again. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing but only on our toes. So you're going to kick your toe back, and now using the toe, you're just going to go on the top of your toe and you're going to rotate. And go ahead and swap. I don't know if you guys can see that. So I'm just doing the top of my toe here. Now we're going to go ahead and do the heel. And on this one I like to drive my heel into the ground. And when I do this, I'm trying to flex my foot either way. So I'm coming inside, I'm pushing it out. Pulling it inside, and pushing it out. What you're going to feel is you're going to feel it this way. You should feel it more on the back side. When you push, you should feel it more on the side, and I hope it's turning out. You can almost see the activation on my leg. So we're going to go ahead and do that both sides. Again, pushing away, pulling in. Pushing away, pulling in. So after that, now we're going to go ahead and just lift your foot up in the air, and you're just going to do straight rotations. A few counterclockwise, a few clockwise. It's okay if you feel pops or makes weird sounds, so long as it doesn't hurt, okay? There you go, just heard it. Seriously, I recommend doing this every day. Okay, so after that, I'm going to go ahead and do my standing calf raises. Different from most people, I don't do a straight vertical calf raise. Simply put, you can just hit your calf at different angles. What I like to do is I come up, I kick my heels out, bring them up, and then on the way down, I bring them in. And then from here, I start in, come out, and down. And from back, look like this. So you come up, kick your heels out, come up, bring your heels in and down, and same thing going the opposite way. So I'll typically do 3 or 4 of those, depending on how sore my calves are, how much activation I want. After that, we're going to go ahead and move over to the wall here, and we're going to do toe raises. Now, toe raises are important because nobody ever actually works out the front of your legs, like your shins here. And the reason I do it is it's super important in preventing things like stress fractures. If you remember, we were just talking about increasing your intra-abdominal pressure and engaging your core to take the load off your stomach, or not your stomach, off your spine. Very similarly, training your calves and your shins can help take off the load on your tib and fib down there in your leg for things like load bearing, rucking, running, swimming, jumping, stuff like that. So this is really going to help prevent lower leg injuries. So if you move over to the wall, what you're going to want to do is you want to put your butt and your back flat against the wall, Gonna put all the weight on your heels, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick your toes up and slow down. So explode up and down. And you'll do this a few times. Honestly, when I get to 6 or 8, my shins are pretty smoked. But if you want to play around, you can either push your toes out or bring them in. And it's going to bring in, it's just going to hit a little bit differently on your legs. And I'll come closer so you can kind of see, pretend there's a wall here. What you're doing is you're putting all your weight on your heels, and you're exploding up, and then slowing the descent. And you guys should absolutely be feeling this. This smokes my legs, and I've been doing it for years. I just think it's super important. I think you guys should do that. So now that we've kind of covered your lower legs, we're going to go ahead and move into like our quads and our hamstrings. So the first thing I do, and we're going to stand at 3/4 here, is kind of a leg extension, if you will. And the reason I do this, and I think it's important, simply put, we've got a lot of tendons and ligaments here that before I even start moving, I'm going to go ahead and kind of warm up and just kind of get some blood flow in the area before I actually start doing my heavier movements. So the first thing I do, I pick up this leg, and I'm going to extend it like I'm trying to flex the leg. When I extend, I don't extend perfectly straight forward, I kind of come out at an angle. So if you're looking here, I kind of come out, and I extend, and then I relax, and I extend. And I'll do about 8 or 10 of those each leg. I'll swap, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and do a standing leg curl. So if you aren't familiar with that, I'll come from the side. Same thing, pick this leg up. Now what I personally do to actually engage my hamstrings more, hips forward, I pick my toe up like the standing shin raise, and then I curl in line, right, that hamstring. You should feel it right here, right in this area, okay? If at any point you have to use the wall for balance, please do. Swap sides. Remember, hips forward, point that toe, pick that toe up, curl. Okay, so now that you've done those, we're going to go ahead and move to the next portion, which is a little more advanced, but kind of the similar movements. So what I do, I'm a lawyer, is same thing, a leg extension, but I'm actually going to push my leg out, okay? And then we're going to alternate with a leg kickback, okay? So hips forward, go ahead and engage your core and brace, and kick that leg forward, okay? And then you're going to reach back, you're going to come back. Leg forward, back, forward, back. And then go ahead and swap legs, same thing. Forward, back. So do a few of these. Typically 4 is my magic number. And then from here comes the hardest part. So now you did forward and back. We're going to kick to the side. Don't kick anybody. I'm not a kickboxer. Don't really recommend this, but it is great for getting your hips and stuff warmed up, and specifically your groin area. So I don't have a wall here, so pardon my balance. What you're going to do is you're going to put your weight on one leg. You're going to try and kick your leg out to one side. Okay? And then down. You're going to do just as many of these as you did the forward and backs. Okay? Obviously I'm not doing them, and I already told you I can't count very well, so bear with me. So after you've done a few of those, you should feel it in your hips, both on your inside and your outside. It's pretty important. If you can't do those, they hurt too bad, no worries, because the next part I think you should be able to do, so we're going to go ahead and do can openers and can closers. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick your leg up, turn, you're going to keep this leg straight forward, you're going to turn this leg outside and come down. Then you're going to rotate again. Personally, I don't let my leg touch the ground, so there's always some sort of activation. So I do 3 or 4 of these coming out, and then I'll swap and I'll go the opposite way. These are called can closers. I'll do 3 or 4 of these. Okay, the opposite side. Again, it's going to be working your hips, which is great. Sorry if I'm breathy, it's kind of hard walking and talking at the same time. So after you've done that, our next portion is going to go ahead and be an RDL, single leg RDL. So now we're going to go ahead and combine that hip hinge I was telling you about, your pelvic thrust forward, and then your bracing, okay? So I'll come to the side, it's all one leg, hold on to the wall if you need to. You're going to pick one leg up, hips forward, Engage your core. Now you're going to hip hinge, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to reach with the opposite hand as far as you can until you can't reach anymore. The way I know I'm going to my max distance or max hip hinge is when I feel my back starting to want to round. That's as far as I can go. So some people can go all the way to the floor, some people can get right here. Mobility is different for everybody, that's why we're working on it, right? So what you do is you're going to do 6, this hand, the opposite hand, right? Then come up. And then once you hit 6, you're going to swap hands, same side hand, let the legs down, okay? 6 more. And then go ahead and swap legs. And ideally, you're going to want to work to a point where you can do this without having to hold on to the wall. The reason I say that, when you're not holding onto the wall, you've got a lot of minuscule muscles here on the side of your legs that you're going to be working on that you'll feel burn, trying to keep you in line, trying to keep you upright and keep you stable, if you will. So I really recommend doing that. So, that being said, we're going to go ahead and do a double leg RDL now. So hips about shoulder width apart, toes pointed forward, same thing. Remember those 3 mechanics I told you? You're going to go ahead and do an RDL. So you're just going to hip hinge, big chest, and do a few of these, okay? Again, this should be pulling on your hamstrings, you should feel a little bit in your glutes, just to kind of warm everything up. So after you do a few of those, now you're going to move into your leg swings or Frankensteins. So hold on the wall wherever it's at if you need it. If you can progress to not needing the wall, that's great. So what you're going to do, same thing, one leg grounded, one leg in the air. You're going to go ahead and start kicking your leg forward and back. Trying to kick a little bit higher every time. So you're going to do a few dead on, okay? And then you're going to kick out to the side. Kind of at a 45-degree angle. Then you're going to come back to the middle. Then you're going to kick across your body. Another 45. There's no set number on that, but I would just do a few each side, okay? And again, the point of all this is to increase blood flow and kind of get everything warmed and primed. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and move into our actual squatting portion here. So the first one is called, I don't really know the exact term, but I always called it the Asian squat. And the reason for that is it takes a lot of mobility, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your heels together, okay? If you need to hold a weight out in front of you to kind of offset your balance, that's absolutely fine. You can also hold on to the wall or something like that. What you're going to do is you're going to do those 3 mechanics I showed you, and then you're going to squat down, okay? And you're going to go as far down as you can, all right? And you stick your hands out in front of you, you can. Now, the main goal here is to keep your toes and heels on the ground. So from the side, I do it like hips forward, brace, the whole 9 yards. And then I sink into it, okay? I try to keep my toes and heels planted, all right? And I explode up. I do 5 to 6 of those. If you want to deepen the stretch, you can sink down, open up your hips and your knees, close them and come up. Okay, the whole time keeping your toes and your heels planted best you can. So after you've done a few of those, you're going to go ahead and widen your stance, just about shoulder width apart, toes pointed straight forward. You're going to hear me reference something called screwing your feet into the ground. What you're trying to imagine is you're planting, so you're pushing pressure down on the ground with your feet. And you're almost trying to kick your feet to the sides, right? And now what you're going to do is called opening your hips. And the way you see it is you push your hips forward, like I showed you, and you're going to try and open up your knees to the sides, okay? Now everything here is locked in my legs, my hips. Now I'm going to brace. I'm going to sink into this squat, okay? You can get to 90, you can go all the way down if you get the mobility, explode up. So from the side, toes pointed forward, screw my feet in, push my hips forward, pull my knees out, okay? Brace your core, come down, okay? You can hold it here if you want to, come down if you want to deepen that stretch, right? Come down, you can rotate your knees, just like this. Try and keep your heels and toes planted. Once you do a few of those, you're going to come out wider here, all right? Toes pointing out further. Same exact thing, go ahead and sink into that squat. Now from here, I take my elbows and I put them on the inside of my knees. I'm going to go ahead and open and push on this knee, try and push it out, okay? Keep your toe and your heel planted, you're going to feel this under your groin and your hips. Go a few one way, a few the other way, okay? And then go ahead and come back up. That's pretty good. Whew, sorry. I'm not doing cardio right now, I am on bulk. So now from here, we're going to go ahead and do kind of your hip movements. So if you can imagine your femur, which is your long bone and your upper portion of your leg here. Your femur looks like this, and it's got a little bone here that connects in your hips, which sits right about here in your pelvic girdle. This is your pelvic girdle, this is your femur, this is that notch, okay? There's a few nerves that run through here. One of them is called the sciatic nerve, it runs up your back. There's also something called the IT band. IT band runs across here. It's usually going to result in a lot of hip tightness, hip pain, and sciatica. And the thing about sciatica is that sciatic nerve, I told you, runs up to your lower back. So usually if you have tight hips, it's going to be something called referred pain, meaning pain that's in one area that's going to go ahead and move to another part of the body. So a lot of people with low back pain actually have really tight hips. So if your back is hurting, there's a good chance it's actually with your hip mobility, okay? So the reason I bring up your femur. Your femur sits like this in your pelvic girdle. We're going to go ahead and do rotations, right? We're going to push to one side, push to the other. We're going to want to imagine that ball in your socket, is what it's called. You're going to want to imagine you're trying to move it around and open up your hips and increase that mobility here, okay? For older people, that tends, like the pelvic girdle, the whole pelvis, right? That tends to be a pretty frail spot, and actually working on this has been known to increase, obviously, density and decrease the likelihood that you're going to get a pelvic fracture later in life. So anyways, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my hips to each side. Again, my hips are in line here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my hips forward. Okay, come around to each side. I'm going to shift my hips back, kind of doing a hip hinge. I'm going to rotate to one side. I'm going to come all the way around. Do it a few times each way. And then what I do is called hip rotations. So you're going to physically feel your hips shift like this, and I hope you can see it on the video. So I'm doing these, I'm turning my hips, my chest. I'm not just rotating, okay? I'm locked in, I'm turning my hips. Alright, you can feel the shift in your hips. It's really just warming everything up here, okay? So now from this position, we're going to go ahead and hit our first stretch of the day. I know you'd be. So you're going to go ahead and hip hinge. And then once you get to a point, you can go ahead and start stretching into this. Come down to your ankles. Okay? From here, you can go ahead and draw a half globe with one hand to one side. You should start feeling it on that hamstring. Then go ahead and walk both hands half globe to the other side. Alright? Now come in the middle and walk your hands straight back. Go ahead and pick them up. And now you're going to turn your torso to one side. And same thing. Okay, now you're going to come back up to this position. I know this is a lot in this position, so now we're going to go ahead and do side lunges. So what you're going to do, same thing, hips in line. And go ahead and lunge to one side. And then to the other, trying to keep your head in a straight line, come up. Go back the other way, come up. And now this time we're going to try and sink a little bit lower, okay? And if you need to kick your feet out a little wider, you can. Same thing, lunge to one side. All the way over and up, back and over. And you can sit down here for a little bit, you can change your height, whatever you want to do. I do a few of those, these are pretty tough, but I swear by them. So next, after that, you're going to come to this position, okay? I'm going to stand outside so I can show you. You're going to kick one leg forward, one leg back, and hold on to the wall if you need to, okay? The objective of this one is you don't want your knee to touch the ground, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to sink down into this lunge, okay? And now, you're going to try to keep this toe and this heel planted the entire time, okay? You're going to push your knee over your toe, best you can. What it's going to do, keep your heel planted. It's going to work on your knee over toe mobility, which is essential in squatting. Now what you're going to do is you're going to rock back, keeping that toe planted onto this leg, okay? You're not going to, if you notice my knee's not touching the ground, then you're going to come back to this position. So you're going to do 2 to 3 of those each leg, then come up, and go ahead and swap. So remember, key things, try and keep your toe and heel planted, try to keep a good upright posture. So go ahead and sink into it, knee over toe, come back. Knee over toe, come back. So I go ahead and do 2 or 3 of those each side. Then from here you should be feeling your quads and calves warmed up pretty good. Hopefully I headed out that water break. So after that, your legs are going to go ahead and be pretty warmed up. So we're going to go ahead and hit our second stretch, which is just your standing quad stretch, okay? With this one, I'll turn. You'll see a lot of people just rip on their leg. Remember that hip or pelvic thrust. Shift your hips forward, and it's going to deepen your stretch. You should be feeling it right here. You can kind of see on your hip a little bit and at the top of your quad. You go ahead and switch legs. Now obviously with the stretching portions, I don't spend a lot of time stretching them only because I do it pretty frequently. But typically they say 15 to 30 seconds is a good time to stretch. I do 10 to 15, but if you need to stretch longer or shorter, whatever it is, obviously you can do that. Go ahead and do that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So now that we've warmed up our lower legs, we haven't stretched our calves yet, so we're going to go ahead and go back to the wall. And all you do on this one, they'll come to the side here. You're going to put your leg here, leg straight, and you're going to step into your heel stretch, or your calf stretch. You're going to feel this one right down the back of your calves, okay? Now I hold these a little longer because calf stretches feel great. So after you've done that, you go ahead and take that weight off. And now what you're going to do is you're going to bend your knee a little bit, and now you're going to try and touch your knee to this wall. Now you're going to feel this one at the front of your leg on your shin. It's a nice shin stretch. Then go ahead and swap. And same thing. And then again, bend your knee, try and touch your knee to that wall. Okay, sweet. So that concludes the lower body portion of our standing workout or warm-up mobility routine. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the video, take a breather because obviously I'm getting breathy from not doing my cardio and teaching you guys my mobility routine. And then we're going to come back and I'll do my standing upper body and then we'll meet in the middle, okay?